Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pitattvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakhatvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Namadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are discussing what exactly involved in self-realization, and ultimately the purpose is how am I going to realize myself. So it is both understanding and also as how do I become a self-realized person. What should I do? What has to be done? Also we will discuss that, so that by the end of this talk series one should have a clear understanding and goal, and also a means to achieve that goal. Has to be clear. And so those who can realize it by listening, that is really great. And we discussed just now that what exactly I am looking for. Everyone is looking for two aspects of the same thing. One is, I want to be free from suffering. I don't want to suffer. Nobody likes to suffer. And therefore, I want to be free from any suffering. And I want to be happy. So, a negative way of looking is, I don't want that and I want this. Both may be the same, and in case they are same, we will also examine that. So, question is, I don't want to suffer. So, how can I not suffer? This is essentially, why am I suffering? We should know, and that's what we discussed as a part of Purushartha is to be free from suffering, which is same as moksha. So I want to be liberated from what? Liberated from the shackles of this suffering. And suffering can be at the level of body level, at the level of mind level, at the level of intellect level. These are the three instruments that we have: body, mind and intellect. And suffering comes because of, fundamentally, because these are limited. They are space-wise limited, time-wise limited, object-wise limited. So intrinsically, the body, mind and intellect, BMI, they are the instruments with which I am transacting with the world, are limited by themselves, because this body is different from other body. And my mind is different from your mind. And my intellect is different from my intellect. Even my intellect when I was there as a child is different from intellect now, because it got educated. Intellect is growing. My value system, my emotional aspects of my feelings are changing. My body, of course, is changing from the childhood on. So what exactly the limitations of the body, mind, intellect are intrinsic to the body, mind, intellect. So how am I going to be free from the limitations? Because they are intrinsically space-wise, time-wise and object-wise are limited. And what I want is limitlessness. I want to be free from limitations, because any limitation causes suffering. So everyone has a complaint about either the body, either the mind, either the intellect. If you listen to them, they say, are you happy? Yes, I am happy, everything is okay, except I am having a body back pain. Back pain, this pain, leg pain, knee pain. As you become older and older or mature, and the body problems become more and more compared to a young person. And the mind problems is, I love this, I don't get it, I hate this and I love this all the time, this is I don't like, this I like, and everyone has complaints. Whenever they like, I'm happy. If I don't like it, I get. If I don't like what I get, then I'm unhappy. So my likes and dislikes, which seems to be there with me, causing a problem at the mind level and also at the intellectual level. So intellectually I want certain things and I'm not getting what it is because my limitations of my intellect. So they are limited. And body space-wise limited, time-wise limited, because if you go to the cemetery, you know, it says date of birth and a dash and date of expiry they put in the graveyard on the tomb there. So it says one is birth and then dash and the death. And Swami Chidananda says, he says all it means is there is nothing else to say other than he is dashing from birth to death. So if I am born means there is a time where I am going to kick the bucket. That is guaranteed. That is guaranteed from the birthday on. Birthday on, counting days. When it will happen, we don't know. So therefore, it is whatever is born has to die. That's the Krishna statement. Jatasya hi dhruvo mritsyuhu. Dhruvam janma mritasya cha. You talk about recycling part later. But whatever is born has to die. Whatever that has a beginning has to have an end. One day or other. You may live. Some people may live early, leave early, and some people may be extending maybe 60, 70, 80, 90, and even 100 years, and then 120 years. Then one day you kick the bucket. So it is time-wise limited, space-wise limited, because our body is occupying only particular place. I wish I am there also and I am here. No. If I am here, I am not there. If I am there, I am not here. And I would like to be at both places because I want to enjoy both. So how can it be? It's not. So limitations of the body, limitations of the mind, limitations of the intellect are intrinsic to the body, mind, intellect. So from the point of body, mind, intellect, I can never be free. So moksha cannot be related to the body, mind, intellect. So whole Gitopadesha starts with this statement. Because Arjuna is crying because his grandsire Bhishma and his teacher Dronacharya, they are there and thinking that they are not going to be there after the war because they are going to be killed. And even before they kill, he has also already started crying. Because they think there are time-wise and space-wise they are limited. And Krishna's first statement of Gitopadesha is, you are crying where there is no reason for you to cry. So essentially, it says, Gatasu na gatasum cha nanu sochanti panditaha. So that who are going and who are gone, there are only two people, two types, who are gone and who are going only. There is nobody stays permanently here. So gatasuna gatasumcha nanu sochanti panditaha. So therefore, you are crying where there is no reason for you to cry. That's how it starts. So how can that be? Because they are going to die anyway. So therefore, there is something that remains even after the death. And that is the real one. The other one is only temporarily. So one has to shift the mind in terms of looking at anybody. Arjuna, the Pitamaha is not just the body, and your teacher Dronacharya is not the body, is something other than the body. Bodies keep saying, Dehinoswin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara yatha dehantara praptihi. So, dhirastasya namuchyate. Therefore, this body keeps changing and one day body has to fall apart. But he is not the body. And he is something other than the body. So, limitations of the body has limitations, but person who is occupying the body should not have the limitations of the body. He is free from the limitations because he is going to take another body. So I have this car is gone, and I need to get the better car. That I am not having a problem, because I can get rid of the old car and get a new car for me to transact with. That's why he says, Vadamsa jirnani yatha vihaya. So just as the old clothes are rejected and taking a new clothes, nobody cries for it. So therefore you are crying where there is no reason for you to cry. Nanu susanti pandita, because wise people don't cry. So therefore, what is that which survives after the body is even drawn? That is the real one and not the body. So if you ask anybody, say, sir, who are you? Everybody starts with, I am this body. And Gita Upadesa starts, that's why Vedanta is a science. Not because it's a Hinduism, it's talking about the facts of life and facts of the absolute fact which cannot be known by objective analysis. All we see is, a doctor will say, he is no more. In every religion it says, he is dead and gone. Mar gaya, Sachipoinadu. What does it mean? Sattupoi means what? He is there and he has gone somewhere. That means one who is occupying the tenement has left that place because that tenement is no more conducive for his next set of desires. That's the whole thing. So therefore, natve vaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipaha nachaiva nabhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. So Krishna says, emphasizing in the very first few slokas of the Gita, says there is never a time I was not there, there is never a time you are not there, never a time all these kings are not there. They are eternally present, and therefore they do not have the space-wise limitation or a time-wise limitation, at least time-wise limitation that says. So therefore, there is eternal thing that I have. So one has to know what is that. Is that the self? Is realization, if self-realization involves that, is that moksha? You have to ask now. Because that's how Krishna starts also. So it's a limitations of this time-wise only. Because only when I say I am not dying, I am in some other place, only I am removing this, that means I am limited by somewhere else. So time-wise I am eternal, but how about space-wise? That's a problem. So Krishna doesn't discuss that in the space-wise there. And therefore some acharyas interpret that jiva is, an individual is limited space-wise, even though he is not limited by time-wise. Follow now? So some acharyas interpret the Bhagavad Gita and also the Vedas with the statement like there is a jiva, an individual, and individual is limited, and for them that jiva's Chaitanya Swarupam is so small, tiny, it is as though is less than this, smaller than, if you take a hairpin and divide into 100 times, if you take the tip of a hair, that is the size of Anupramanat, is a size like a Anu, atom. So therefore they use the scriptural statement to justify that a jiva is tiny. That means he may not have he may be eternal, but he is the time-wise, but space-wise he is still limited. That's why for them my moksha is not to have this space but go to some other space. Not in this world of suffering, but go to Vaikuntha, everything is beautiful there. And that becomes the liberation for them, because he is still a tiny. So question now we are asking is, what is jiva? And what is jagat, the world, and what is Ishvara? So there are three things here: jiva, jagat, and Ishvara. Who is a jiva? Or who am I? Not some jiva, we are talking about ourselves. So who am I? If I am eternal time-wise, Am I space-wise limited and object-wise limited? And that's what other acharyas are saying. If I am space-wise and time-wise limited, then how can I be free from limitations? And is that all moksha is? I had to settle with it, or do I have a freedom to be in the space-wise as well as the time-wise, also object-wise, is independent of that. So, who is a jiva? Question comes. And what is this world, Jagat? Because I am put as though in this world, I find myself in this world. I don't seem to have any choice where I am born, to whom I am born, whether even a man or a woman. All the choices I do not have. As though I am pushed into it, I find myself in an unfortunate situation like a baby, depending upon everything else, the mother and all that, and I am a jiva, crying as everybody may be laughing, but I am just crying as I am coming out of my mother's womb. Thank God, Lord has provided a mother and the food for me to survive until I grow up myself. All that has to be things like, who is the jiva then? How do religions explain all these jivas? And what is there has to be, how can I be free from the moksha, means free from all limitations? And what has that to do with the self-realization? So first we have as a jiva I am, because everybody says I am, and everybody is individual. Individual is divided by having not being other individuals, because I am limited by other people. So I am limited by vastu. Vastu means object-wise I am limited compared to other people. And therefore a jiva bheda is there. So not only I am a jiva, you are a jiva, there are many people in the whole world, and sometimes people complain that there's too many people occupying in this space of earth and polluting also. So we have to control the population. So therefore the jiva bhinnatvam becomes a problem here, and that becomes a limitation. Jiva bhinnatvam means I am different from other jivas. And there are infinite of them, looks like. Besides human beings, there are animals, there are plants, varieties. There are 80,000 types of species, apparently, according to Vedanta. And in the 80,000 species, in each species, there are many varieties and varieties. Unlimited is mind-boggling, including a small amoeba all the way up to the gigantic people. All are jivas only. So there are jivas, and there is a world that I am dealing with, things that are inert. We are talking about jiva, we say he is a living people, living entity, including a cockroach or a mosquito. It's a living. A life is there pulsating, and it wants something that it's going after. A mosquito wants something for it to survive, and it will be happy if it gets what it wants. So it's also searching for happiness, and I am also searching for happiness. My happiness, I may suffer when the mosquito gets its happiness, I may be suffering. So it's interdependent and mutually exclusive happiness. So I want to avoid mosquito bite, and mosquito doesn't want to be caught, at the same time wants to get its quota of its blood, because that's the only way it's happy. And it's determined to get its, whatever you do, it's determined to get its quota of the fresh blood that it wants. And this struggle goes on. I don't want it and it wants it. And that is its dharma, and my dharma is to stop it. So my life itself is struggling with the mosquito itself. So every jiva is looking for happiness, and every jiva is different from it, and every jiva is trying to get this in order to be happy. And the life struggles goes on all the time. From time immemorial, this is going on. So, number one, there is a jiva. Number two, there is a world, Jagat. And number three is we bring in as an Ishvara a third entity. These two we see. Nobody questions about it. Says, I am there and the world is there. And the questioning about Ishvara. Ishvara is the Lord. And some people say, I don't believe in it. I believe in it. All belief systems come into picture because I don't see. So therefore, there are, from religious points at least, there is a Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara. From the logical point, is I am there and the world is there. And I am entering into the world. Now the question is there Ishvara or not? And the philosophy says essentially there are three entities, Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara, and there are differences, and in the philosophies there are different postulates about the limitations of each. What are the postulates? This is in the Vedanta, there is Advaita philosophy and Advaita, the Visishta Advaita philosophy, all following again Vedanta. According to them, there is a Jiva Bhinnatvam, that means the difference between one Jiva and other Jiva. Jiva Jagat Bhinnatvam, that means the Jiva is different from the world. So there are five essential differences. Jiva Bhinnatvam, Jiva Jagat Bhinnatvam, Jiva Ishvara Bhinnatvam, Jagat Ishvara Bhinnatvam, and in the Jagat there is a object-object Bhinnatvam also. So these are the five, and they are essential, the ingredients that we had to deal with. And some philosophers claim that these remain as it is. These differences will exist even in moksha. So moksha is, in spite of these differences, I should get maximum happiness that I can get, and that itself is a moksha. So their definition of moksha is accepting the limitations of all these five differences, that means the limitations, and in spite of the limitations get maximum happiness out of the situation, and that is the freedom. Follow now? So essentially the description is based on a statement of that there exist these five essential differences, and what's the justification? They have a justification either from the experience wise that we do, as well as from the scriptural wise that they quote, and therefore there is a difference. Just now I quoted the Krishna statement, Natvevaham jatunasam natvam nemi janadipaha nasaiva nabhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. Says there was never a time I was not there, never a time you were not there, never a time all these kings are not there. That means they are, each one is eternal, that therefore they are limited by jiva bhinnatvam. Since Krishna is concerned as a Bhagavan, so therefore there is a difference between the Jiva and Bhagavan also. Because Krishna says, I am also there and you are also there. So therefore there is a Jiva Jagat Bhinnatvam, Jiva Bhinnatvam, Jiva Ishvara Bhinnatvam, all that is implied according to them in that very sloka itself, and therefore they use that sloka to justify their conclusions that there are these five differences that is eternally will be present. And therefore, what is moksha? Moksha is within these limitations, try to get a maximum happiness, because everybody is looking for happiness in spite of these limitations. Just as we are struggling here, we want happiness in spite of limitations, you also struggle hard. And only moksha is you don't have to struggle anymore, and once you are reached that stage, then you are eternally in that state without any further limitations than that. Therefore you are free. Free from what? Free from further seeking for happiness, because you are full as you are. This is the accepted philosophical positions by that. Is he right? Are they right? So from logical point, as we already said, any limitation is going to cause a problem, and therefore it causes suffering, and therefore that is not what we want. We want a situation where there are no limitations of any kind. And that should be real moksha. And any of these Jiva Jagat, Jiva Jiva Bhinnatvam, Jiva Jagat Bhinnatvam, Jiva Ishwara Bhinnatvam, Jagat Ishwara Bhinnatvam, and within the Jagat Bhinnatvam means all types of differences and distinctions and separateness, all that is going to be a problem because they cause a problem. So in the Manusmruti, there is a sloka, Sarvam Parabhasham Dukkham, Sarvam Atmavasham Sukham, Etad Vidya Samasena, Lakshanam Sukadukhayoho. So this is from the Manusmruti. It says, whenever I depend on something other than myself, Sarvam Paravasham Dukkham, any dependence on something other than myself is going to be causing a problem, and that is the suffering. Sarvam Atmavasham Sukham. If I don't depend on anything other than myself, I depend only on myself, then I am happy. And this is the essence of the suffering versus dukkham and samasena. In essence, this is the statement. So this is exactly what Krishna says in this Prajna. We says Atmanyeva Atmana Tushtaha. We analyzed the last time. The first statement, Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan. He doesn't depend on anything because he has no desires. And that desire because he is Atmanyeva Atmana Tushtaha. So how do the other acharyas interpret this statement? They says, even though you are limited, you are full by yourself. So according to the Advaita, each one is like a pot. So each jiva is like a pot, and right now you have an empty pot and looking to fill up that pot as a ananda. But once you are full, and that pot is only full when you go to moksha, that means you are pot full and you cannot take any more than what your pot is. But how come the other fellow has a bigger pot and a small pot? That you cannot ask the question. It's intrinsically he ended up having a bigger pot. But why? No question of why. That is so. So therefore, their philosophy is each one is a pot that can accommodate that much only, and they cannot accommodate more than that. So if that is the Advaita philosophy. In the Visishtadvaita, you are a small tiny one, but when you go to Vaikunta, along with Narayana, you will be enjoying the infinite happiness, just as Narayana doing. Therefore, how? That is so. Even though you are tiny, you can have an infinite happiness because you are enjoying whatever the Lord is enjoying by serving Him though. So you have to recognize you depend on Him for your survival, means for your happiness, and that dependence is what is knowledge is required. You think you are independent, but you have to depend, you have to surrender your own self to the Lord and take a refuge in Him and say, I depend on you, please save me. That is what this Saranagati means. So he will enjoy in Vaikunta even though he is different from other jivas, even though space-wise limited, even though the object-wise limited, he will be enjoying as much happiness and as that. In spite of limitations, he is going to have infinite happiness. That is the statement. How can that be? Don't ask that question. That is so. Because that's what scripture says, according to them. So therefore, limitations have to be accepted, but if you ask the question, why should it be? Now we have to go into different definition of who is a jiva? Who am I? Am I limited? Is it the limitation is intrinsic as the other people claim? That we need to explore further for self-realization, because we need to know who am I? Who am I limited intrinsically, or I am limitless by nature? Moksha is limitless as I am, or I will be in a limited way still enjoying the infinite happiness. What is the right thing to do? How Vedanta helps me? Why Vedanta has to be studied? Also we will analyze these things in terms of self-realization. So we will go into next time. So the nature of jiva first we need to understand. Then we need to understand what is the nature of Jagat. Then we analyze what is the nature of Ishvara. Then why would a self-realization and the realization of the world and the realization of the Ishvara, how are they connected? All this we'll be analyzing in terms of self-realization. With this we'll stop today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.